Welcome to the podcast where I'm actively trying to unzip a pocket.
Take your time.
Take my time. I don't even have my glasses with me. What a low budget production
Notes
this is.
Without your readers.
If you can't read the notes that you have, it's going to make for an uninteresting podcast.
I can read them.
Can your eyes? You don't wear cheaters yet?
No.
How old are you?
38.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, it was 46 for me. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm sitting with John Ferrante, the CEO of the AGC of Massachusetts. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome. This has been a long time coming, actually. So let's give you the format for the podcast. This is more for the listeners. We're going to talk about a few things today, but the whole intent of these podcasts as we move along to take what is historically an extremely boring subject that, as a safety professional, we have almost intentionally made uninteresting to the masses. Well, whatever, it's the truth. The topic of safety in construction is historically a very boring subject. And a lot of times we don't talk in real terms. We don't talk real world, especially from the experience of the tradesperson. This will be the first time in this podcast you hear it. It's all about the trades. It's all about the trades. So the idea here is that we have conversations with people that are in the trades, associated with the trades, associated with construction, and bring certain topics to light, and quite honestly, just to generate conversation. Maybe there's an education piece to it. Maybe there's some fun informational stuff. But one of my overarching goals here is to try and make it interesting. So your job today is to be interesting.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
Damn it.
We all know that you appreciate a good conversation, Jason, even if it's one-sided. So
I wonder if the listeners can hear me sipping coffee.
we'll find out in the editing room.
Yeah, we will. I think most people are going to listen to this on a podcast. I think that Mass Construction or Joe Kelly might put up some video snippets of this,
Okay.
Especially for that 12 or 13 seconds where you do say something interesting.
I'll take the under.
And the 6 seconds where I say something interesting. But for the most part, people are going to listen to this driving in the car. If you're listening to this on a Saturday, you need a hobby. You need something better to do with your life than listen to a podcast about construction safety. So,
Absolutely.
But welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this, John. I appreciate it probably more than you know. So
I appreciate the invite. I told you this is my first podcast, so this is a big deal for me. We invited you into the AGC studio.
we have a backdrop. We're AGC Studio. Yeah.
Yeah, we can get you a 5-gallon bucket if it would make you more comfortable to sit on.
It is. I don't like leaning back like this. I feel entitled. So an hour from now, John Ferrante will no longer be a virgin at podcast. That's the message I just got.
Good.
Yeah.
I'll start somewhere.
Are you nervous, excited?
I'm excited. I mean, like you said, you've been talking to me about it for a little while since we started being in meetings a little bit more often than probably either of us would like. But no, I'm excited. There's a lot of good things going on, and it's always fun to talk about your job and what you're doing.
It is. It is. I love the sound of my own voice. You don't strike me as the type that would get nervous doing a podcast, or I know from watching you speak that you're not the type to get nervous in a public speaking forum. You're just not.
I'm just good at hiding it.
If you're that's great if you are. You don't seem like you have nerves at all. And I've seen you speak at some large events too.
Yeah.
So you're very good.
Thank you. You are too.
Thanks.
I was thinking back. You had asked me to be on the podcast. I was thinking back to when I started at AGC, which is 3 years in April. One of the first programs that I really felt like I truly owned and had a hand in was the What's Next COVID in Construction virtual panel that we did. You were on it with Dr. Poznansky from Mass General, Dr. P, as you dubbed him. I'm not sure he appreciated it, but
Couldn't say Poznansky.
couldn't say Poznansky. So, no, I mean it's been a ride, coming out of the pandemic and getting into it, and I feel like a lot of stuff starting to get legs, which is really exciting.
It is, and I think we're going to talk about that today, actually. The pandemic was part of the genesis of the universal orientation. So if you haven't figured out yet, which I don't know why you would because we haven't said it, but one of the things that we're going to talk about today is the universal orientation. And we'll get to that. But part of that genesis that we want to talk about is the fact that for the first time in my professional career, a group of GCs and CMs and some contractors, trades, truly came together during the pandemic to figure out how to overcome a common obstacle. Like, truly came together. We agreed on a set of guidelines that we could communicate to the city and the state, and we did a lot of good stuff in a really, really short period of time, all with the intent of keeping us working. Because if you remember at the time, there was a lot of pushback in cities and towns to shut down construction, non-essential work.
There's only one way to make everybody want to go to work, and that's to tell them that they can't.
Yeah, true. That's reverse psychology, right? My wife's been trying that for years, though.
Yeah, well, mine's still trying to get me to work from home, and I just make up any excuse to come into the office, like, I have to shoot a podcast with Jason Edic today.
Your wife wants you to work from home?
Oh God, yes.
Mine is the
because
opposite.
we're truly a happy couple. We love each other. We always get along. There's no fighting going on whatsoever.
Right, perfect marriage. Just like me.
Or also, I can help pick up the kids, and all of a sudden working from home slides into, being a parent and working from home.
Right, so it's not a companionship thing. It's a domestic relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Grocery shopping and picking up the kids. All right, so you've been here for 3 years in April, almost 3 years. 2021, you walked into the AGC as the CEO of AGC Mass.
I did, yeah. Bob Petroselli, who was the former, longtime, 34 years, I believe, CEO of AGC.
He was getting a little long in the tooth, huh?
Well,
I swear to God, I hope Bob listens to this.
Anyone who stays in any position for, that long.
I hope Bob listens to this. Hi, Bob. We miss you. We do.
Tremendous respect for that. It's so uncommon these days for someone to be able to weather the storms that come with any job description, but let alone one where you're dealing with a lot of big personalities and big egos, and, big companies and big names, and so kudos to Bob.
Bob was a class act. He really was.
For being with it.
A wonderful human being. Still is.
Yeah. But so I came in, right after Bob. We had a 2-week crossover, so barely enough time for him to show me where the
your
coffee machine was, let alone really get a sense of what the organization was about after 35 years.
All right, I'm going to make a blanket statement here, and it's my observation. I didn't know you. I knew the name from your days in your former life.
Yeah.
At the Trade Employers. But I didn't truly know you. So one of the things that I found over the past 3 years, and if you're a listener, we're still at the ass-kissing phase of the podcast. But this happens to be the truth, so it's not really ass-kissing, it's truth-telling. You're a doer. You really are. You are not, to me, a typical manager. You are a doer. You've jumped in with both feet as a CEO into topics that you typically don't see the executive leadership of an organization jump into. And we're going to talk about one of those today, but you're a doer. So I have to say, in 3 years, you have my respect and admiration, especially for the guidance that you have managed within a very diverse group. So good for you. You're in a good position and you're doing a good job.
That's some high quality ass kissing there.
It happens to be the truth, so it's easy to do that.
No, so you said the podcast is, about everything kind of construction adjacent. That's what AGC is. We're a construction trade association. So, we like to be able to speak to what our member firms do, but I couldn't, tell you the first thing about building a building, putting a screw in the right place, doing whatever. I'm a nonprofit executive, and so you have to learn how to do, because we got a staff of 6 managing a budget of $2.5 million, and it's you become an owner operator, and there's a lot of those in this industry, so they know there is no executive management. It's I'm going to be doing in the morning and then managing in the afternoon, and hopefully I can find time for both.
You seem to have nailed it, and I'll repeat that. You've jumped into things with both feet that most people ordinarily would not in your position, and it has made a huge impact. And in fact, just what we're going to talk about today, it's made all of the difference in the world.
Well, yeah, it also helps that, so my previous job, Building Trades Employers Association, I was the associate executive director there, and so I worked under a tremendous guy, Tom Gunning, for 6 years. And
Senior.
Tom Gunning Senior. Tom Gunning III is also a tremendous guy, but his father was a real mentor of mine, and I'm constantly thinking about how he managed as I go through my day to day. But
people person,
yeah. So I can.
In fact, all the Gunnings, I think. Well, really, I mean it.
I wouldn't like to see you in T3 in a conversation. It might never end.
T3, I could talk to him all day. He really is fun to talk. He's so passionate.
Yeah. But, no, I mean, as the associate, executive director, I was the doer. That's a staff of 3 or 4, depending on, when you were over there. But, I was the doer. And so I think I've just brought that mentality as I, became the CEO. I'm not as good at being, up here at the executive management level as I am being in the trenches and trying to really get things done and move the needle.
Don't ever lose that trait. You're doing an outstanding job. And that concludes the ass-kissing piece of our podcast.
Well done.
Now we're going to talk about the subject. We're going to talk about the universal orientation today. And I would imagine that if you're listening to this podcast, you may or may not know about what we're doing at the AGC and beyond. The AGC in Mass has been the clearinghouse for all of this, but as a service to the construction industry. What we talk about today, we're rolling out to the industry at large in New England and beyond. We'll talk a little bit about that, but it is an effort that, to me, is long overdue. So I'll give the introduction for our listeners here. During the pandemic, when we got together as a group of GCs to come up with a plan that would allow us to keep our jobs going and do so safely during the pandemic with all the restrictions that we had and everything that we had to account for, I think we realized that we could come together for the greater good as a group of GCs and CMs and agree on some very basic principles. It was something that started even a few years before the pandemic here through the AGC, and we called it the Boston Construction Managers Safety Partnership. But we tried to find some common ground and create some common forms, believe it or not, some common forms and some common procedures that we could all share across the job site, with this one overarching intent, which still holds true today: make the lives of the tradespeople easier, more efficient. And the concept is simple, right? When our trades win, we as GCs win. The client and the owner wins when the tradespeople who put in place, I'd say 90 to 95% of the work on every single project, when the people who are actually doing the work win, we all win. So focus on those trades. And we didn't have a lot of success pre-COVID in coming together as a group and saying, all right, let's use a single crane hoisting plan for all of the major GCs in the Boston area, something that the crane companies and the subs could get accustomed to We didn't have any success there. But after COVID, we said, we think we can do more. And you and some other folks here brought together a group of people, the CMs and the GCs in the Boston area, to talk about how to make the subs' lives easier. Where did that go? Where did that conversation go?
Yeah, I think you're giving me and probably AGC too much credit, because from my perspective,
here we go with the ass kissing again.
Start up with the ass kissing, warm it up. No, but from my perspective, I walked in to this group, the AGC Safety Committee, that was already tight. Like everybody there was open book, willing to share information, best practices, what's working, what's not, how are you handling this? And, I think the logical conclusion of that culture is, well, how do we create greater efficiency in the safety process so that the tradespeople aren't getting burned out from, hearing the same spiel about Fatal 10 or, tying off or whatever it might be over and over and over again, and really get into, what is motivating safe behavior on a job site and what isn't. And, so it's all the credit to the group in that room that had built that, sort of collaborative culture well before I showed up. I was just invited into a meeting one day. All of a sudden, a year and a half later, we have this universal orientation and rolling it out and that kind of thing. So it's it's a credit to you.
There's a high level of respect in that room, and if you're a listener, if you think about some of the companies that are in that room, Erling Construction, Lee Kennedy, Shawmut, Dimeo, Turner, Consigli, Suffolk, W.T. Rich, who else?
JMA.
Moriarty, can't miss them. But there is such a high level of respect among the safety professionals and safety directors in that room. Professionally, it something like this just couldn't fail, and it's a genuine level of respect.
Well, and I think you're talking about bringing it back to the trades. Obviously they're the ones that are driving safety on site by buying into a program, committing to working safely, whatever it might be, and I think. May not be the popular thing to say, but I think there are some that view safety as a differentiator. Like, we're safer than you are, we're better at safety than you are. And within that room, I think the perspective is it's not a differentiator, it's all a shared responsibility to the trades, making sure everyone can work as safely as possible. I'm not going to hold back on whatever secret sauce I have because I want to make sure that, Dimeo's people get home safely the same as Lee Kennedy's, the same as Suffolk's.
Well, we all share in the same trade pool. Mm-hmm. And again, when the subs and the trades win, we win. It's unequivocal. So we had this idea that the orientation process in the Boston area, and it's not unique to Boston. This is industry-wide, but we'll just speak to Boston, that the orientation process in Boston, in the Boston area, sucked. It was inefficient, it was repetitive, it was tuned out by the trades. Now picture this. You're a tradesperson, you're an electrician working for Gaston Electric or McDonald or name any trade, any company. You go to 2, 3, 5, 7, 12, up to 20 projects a year as an electrician, a tile fitter, as a carpenter, a drywaller, any of those trades. You go to that many projects a year, and every single one of those projects you go to, you have to go through an orientation. So you go to a Lee Kennedy project, and we put you through an orientation video, and we have a site-specific section of our orientation that we go over with the superintendent and the trades, and it is the same, almost the same identical message that you're going to get when you go to a Shawmut project or a Turner project or a Demio or Suffolk. Any other GC is delivering the same basic message in the same concept to every trade. And why do we have to do that general orientation for every trade, every project? We're losing somewhere between...
Because the lawyers told you to, right?
No, a lawyer never told us that we have to do our own separate gig.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But we all know that we have to do an orientation when people come to the project. But why do we have to do it 12 times a year? Give the same message 12 times a year. Are we trying to reinforce it? And if so, is it working? There's no way. It's just not working. People tune it out. Mm-hmm. We have trades that have seen the same exact Lee Kennedy orientation over a dozen times from project to project in the course of 1 year. So you walk into a room and there's 3 people watching an orientation video and all 3 of them are on their phone. Like, guys, what are you doing? You got to pay attention. And the response that you get is, I've seen this 11 times already this year. Let me quote you the next 6 lines in this video before it even comes up. I said, all right. So you know the video. So then the concept is, can we all, as GCs and CMs in a geographic area, share an orientation, share a high-quality orientation? What was the answer that we figured out? The suspense here is killing me.
We can try. I think that was the answer we figured out.
At the time, yeah, we can try.
You know, and I think, you know, part of this conversation is that, you know, I think we've come up with something that everybody's proud of. And between the orientation video itself and the process that goes along with it, but it's still a work in progress. It's still, you know, something that we realize we're going to constantly have to reinvent and be working on, because, like you said, if you've seen the same video 3, 4, 5 times, I mean, I don't even watch my favorite movies that much, let alone a 30-minute primer on construction safety.
I'm guessing Braveheart for you. Or Shawshank Redemption. That's a classic.
Tommy Boy.
I can't go wrong with Tommy Boy. It might be in my top 10. Yeah, so the concept won't change, though. As much work as we're going to have to put into this over time, the concept really won't change. The idea is pretty simple. Put a tradesperson through a high-quality orientation with knowledge checks or quizzes 1 time per year. You think about any standard in the OSHA standard, that maximum training interval for even something as serious as fall protection is annual. We put people through annual training for fall protection. Why can that same concept for an orientation, a site orientation that covers PPE and fall protection and ladders and this and that, why can't we put somebody through that once per year and have them go from project to project, from GC to GC, with that basic orientation accepted from project to project? And believe it or not, that debate in those meetings went on for a while. We can't do that. That's impossible. It's not a thing. Nobody does that. Well, it turns out when you get 15 or 18 people in a room, we'll go, you know what? I think we can do it. And then from that mindset of, yeah, I think we can do this, and I think we can do a damn good job at it, then we went into kind of logistics and operations. All right, how do we do this, right? How often did we meet?
The breakfast bunch. That's what Chris Ziegler ended up calling you guys, was because I felt like we were eating breakfast with you at least once a week for...
We had a lot. You know where a lot of that budget at the AGC went to was bagels and yogurt and coffee.
Panera, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we were meeting a lot. At one point with regularity, we were meeting every 2 weeks as a group. Some of it remote, a lot of it in person, but literally every 2 weeks with every major GC in the Boston area sitting in that room.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to rewind it back now. I mean, because I feel like for me and for AGC, being able to push, promote, encourage this group to do something that was, a little groundbreaking, a little outside the box in terms of what they were trying to accomplish. Was, I don't know if HEC as an organization would have always kind of pushed you, I think, as hard as we did, because, we, have gone through a little bit of, I think, a change in what AGC is all about over the past 6-7 years. I mean, it preceded my time, but, AGC, I think, primarily had always been a education, networking, maybe a little bit of government relations group.
Yeah, advocacy. Sure.
Advocacy. And, recently, workforce development, diversity and inclusion, safety and wellness, like all of these things really kind of came to the forefront. And we're calling it industry advancement is kind of how we define it as part of our mission.
It's pretty apt.
And I don't know, I think just sort of naturally these areas that people really care about and really want to invest their time in, because you, Sean Cavallo, Bob Kunz, all of you guys that are part of that safety group, you're all volunteering your time because you think it's serving a larger purpose in terms of pushing the industry forward, trying to get things, make things better than, the way that they have been traditionally. And, again, workforce development, diversity, and inclusion, we have groups that are working in those areas trying to do similar things. But, again, when I got invited into that meeting and I sat in there, he said, here's what we're thinking, here's what we've been working on. I was like, let's go. Let's do it. What do we have to do?
Yeah, no fear. No fear from you.
Because I think these are the kind of, opportunities that don't come along all the time. And you really have to kind of seize them and run with them. And, you might run yourself right off a cliff, but at least you're going somewhere.
But again, no fear of failure, though. In fact, I think that was probably the greatest gift that you guys gave us is you guys allowed the AGC to be the clearinghouse for all of this. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, just the process of creating an orientation and what we had to go through. All of that ran through the AGC. So the RFP process, even the accounting and paying for this, I mean, we all contributed to it as members, but you guys were the clearinghouse. And if the clearinghouse wasn't there, I don't know. Well, seriously, I don't know that we would have found this mutual contract that we could all agree on to get this thing done. So that, to me, that's the greatest gift that you guys gave us.
And even that, I mean, I think, consensus building around a concept is a lot easier than when you start to put it into practice. And I think we've seen that a little bit with, as we roll out the orientation and things like that. The devil can be in the details in terms of trying to make sure that this group that's gung-ho about something is all on board with this video production company, this software that we're choosing to use, the particular content of the orientation itself, all of these things. So the group's really done a good job, I think, talking through some of these pain points along the way.
Yeah. Another way to say it is we beat those topics to absolute death.
A few extra breakfasts out of it.
We did, but it was always a healthy discussion. So the end product is, again, hopefully something that is, in fact, it is. I know it is. I'm getting feedback today from the trades that are at Lee Kennedy projects that are starting to come from a Shawmut or a Demio project that I just went through it, the orientation. Come on into the project. You're on the app. You have the green light. Come on in. All right, so we just took a little unintended break. We actually didn't take a break. We decided to take a break. And then when I went over to hit the stop record button, the SD card was full. So we had to go back and figure out what we lost. And if I'm being honest, and you're a listener right now, you have no idea what you missed. It was
the best part of the episode.
It was brilliant. I mean, the last 5, 6, 10 minutes, whatever it was that we were talking when the camera wasn't recording, I'd have to say it was brilliant, and it's now lost forever.
I think it was just too good to be in the public domain.
Yeah. Yeah, or is the Tinder comment still in this?
Oh, I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah.
Good. Now they don't know what we're talking about.
Maybe that was God intervening. It's saying, listen, you're an idiot. We're just going to delete this.
Nobody over 40 should talk about Tinder.
No, I don't believe so. In fact, I think I'm dating myself by even saying Facebook or Tinder. Those are like old people apps now. That kids don't use that stuff anymore.
I don't use
kids
Facebook.
don't use that stuff.
I don't use Facebook.
I'm on the Facebook. Well, we left off first by taking a break to thank our sponsors, of which we have none. So if you listen to this podcast and you're thinking, you know what? This podcast is amazing, and I can really get a lot of bang for my buck out of sponsoring this podcast, please contact me.
Maybe then you can afford another SD card.
It's a bigger SD card. You spent the $8 extra for a 3.
I'm putting that on my to-do list.
All right, let's back up to what you just had up, though. We're backing up.
Oh,
we're backtracking
okay.
a little bit.
Let's do it.
Joe Kelly. John Ferrante was smart enough to use Chat GPT to come up with some names. What do you got? What did Chat GPT?
And we'll sell them to you for...
He's trademarking these as we speak. Copywriting.
No, first off, I mean, we're talking about technology, we're talking about safety. Chat GPT. We've had conversations in the safety committee.
Yeah.
If you're not using it, you're going to get replaced by somebody that does.
I am not even on it. I've never been on it.
You have to.
I know. All right, I'm on it.
It'll write you a toolbox talk.
They will.
It'll come up with a title for your podcast.
What are some of the ones?
It'll write the apology note, to your wife, girlfriend, kids, whoever you're apologizing to at the time.
See, that I can see is extremely useful. Very common.
Okay, so podcast titles. Try to just go with my favorite. I asked it for 10. You could probably ask it for 20 and I would give you 20 titles. I asked it for 10.
Go with the favorites.
Okay, so my favorites. I like High Vis Chronicles, Bright Ideas in Safety.
It's catchy.
It's a good one.
Corny as hell.
Okay. Then we'll go to the next one. Safety Net. Navigating Construction Risks.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. All right, keep going.
The rest of them, I'm not so sure. Let's see. Okay. We'll go with...
All right, read some of the corny ones then.
Toolbox Talk Time.
Yeah, that a journalist and a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Safe Site Strategies.
Yeah, put me to sleep. Right.
Guardrails Unveiled.
That's not bad. That's a long list.
Yeah, you can ask it for as many as you want.
It's a long list.
That's the best thing. It's AI.
We might have to do
I showed my wife ChatGPT the other night, and she was like, and I was just like bossing it around. She's like, "You talk to it that way?" It's like it's a computer. It just does what you ask.
Great site. Here's what you don't do with ChatGPT. You don't, as a sophomore in high school, write a paper using ChatGPT on To Kill a Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. And then submit that paper unchanged, not a single word unchanged, to your teacher. Because your teacher can copy that, paste it into Google, and when it identifies 100% match on ChatGPT, you get accused of plagiarism, and rightfully so. That's how you don't use ChatGPT.
Is that a personal story?
It's somewhat hypothetical. So we're talking about an anonymous member. I love it, Gabby.
Okay, good.
Right, so we have some potential names for the podcast. It was a nice little break. We figured out that we have no sponsors. But before that break, we were talking, I don't know if it was said before the SD card timed out, but we were talking about basically that we should wear capes because of how fearless we were in pursuing this. That's pretty much where we left off.
Right about there.
Right. And at that point, we were talking about some of the struggles that we had and coming together as a group and identifying what the needs are, what all the basics were for this video that we could align on. But we ended up with a couple of phenomenal hires in this process. Who do we end up with?
Well, so in not an order of importance, but first we went out to procure the video production company, and we solicited. We created an RFP, which was a labor of love to come up with that, but it included kind of what we were looking for, general overview of the orientation, the length, how many...
Our vision
for the job sites, tradespeople involvement, all of these different things. And we got, 4 or 5 video production companies to respond, and ended up going with a company out of Idaho, Montana, one of those... big sky places, Ally Safety. Are they out of Washington?
Are you going to make me look it up again?
I don't know. Anyway, Ally Safety.
What's their web address?
It's allysafety.com. ALLY. Oh, wow.
Safety.
Looks like a app. Now we know who our sponsor is.
Rachel, call me.
But so, I think ultimately the differentiator was that Rachel, who runs Allied Safety, is part of their team. She's a certified safety professional. And we looked at this video and we're like, yes, we can script out the whole thing. Yes, we can, come up with all the safety, situations, Fatal 10 illustrations and all that kind of stuff. But is that really where we're going to best spend our time, effort, and attention? Because we know we have these 2 different verticals that we're going to be working on, which is the video production, then the orientation content, and then the database software learning management system that we're going to have to be standing up as well. In addition to, doing your day job.
Right. Yeah, the 18-hour-a-week job.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and they did. We basically said to them, "This is our vision. Please bring it to life, because we're not video people. We don't know what's going to make a great video and what's not going to make a great video." And they took that from a partnership standpoint. They took our vision and the basics of what we wanted and turned it into a video. From the production list to the script, to the post-production, to the actual shooting of the video itself. They took all of that and ran with it.
Yeah, and I don't know how behind the scenes everyone wants to go, but I was, tremendously impressed with just their project management of, they had a shared Google Doc and laid out every shot, every line that was going to be said. Yep. We just had to add in, okay, you're going to be at, this job site or that job site, or here's who we're thinking is going to be the speaker. But within the orientation itself, Rachel and her team came with the script for the Fatal 10. They knew what they were going to say. They had an idea of the shots that they wanted to show for each of those. So it's just us finding, willing actors or extras or whatever you want to call them.
Actors.
Tradespeople. Again, to take some time just to act out or, imitate some of those scenes that we needed.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we picked this up on the last one, but that was the toughest part for me. And if you talk to some of the other people, we're in this orientation video just because of a lack of, we couldn't get Christopher Walken. So as you guys who watch this orientation video, you're stuck looking at people like me and Sean Carvalho and Joanne Raycott. Acting is not our strong suit. I felt like Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights. I didn't know what to do with my hands. I went cross-eyed for a little bit. But Allied Safety really did a phenomenal job in, hey, we have a vision, please make it happen. And they just took the ball and ran with it. And then we had the app, Siteform, siteform.net. mind you. And they had, in a lot of ways, an even tougher job, right? Mm-hmm. They had to take this vision and then turn it into a reality, considering, literally hundreds of different considerations, right? Privacy, which I want to talk about. The tradesperson's privacy or the profile user's privacy, but how to share information among a big group of GCs, how to track something, how to notify people, how to communicate that to as few or as many people as you'd want to. Think about a tradesperson trying to share their profile or their training certificates with their union hall or their employer or a general contractor. So they had literally hundreds and hundreds of considerations to make, and it was all around the root, the basic function of that platform, which is who? Who do we spend the most time talking about while we were trying to build this thing?
This is the tradespeople.
Yeah, the individual, the tradesperson. This isn't about the GCs or the employers. It's about the trades. What did we talk about? It was probably the most important feature of the orientation.
Yeah, we did our research on what was available in the market.
Yep.
And so we knew that there was no solution out there that was going to do 100% of what we wanted. Mm-hmm. Nobody had invented it yet. And it just took a bunch of us idiots coming with an idea and one idiot developer willing to spend some time working on it.
Did you hear that, Andrew Barker? Idiot developer. Very passive aggressive.
No, I think the one, again, like Ally Safety differentiator was certified safety professional on staff. Like that made things a lot easier for us. The Siteform, I think, differentiator from the crowd was that their platform was already designed in a way that it was the tradesperson owns their profile. They are sharing it with the employer. They are sharing it with the project team. And, that's...
If they want to.
If they want to. And, that was always the concern was, how do we give as much ownership as possible to the tradesperson? Because we don't want, there to be resistance to the idea of multiple employers being able to see your certifications, see, which union you're in or which trade you're in, see when your certifications are going to expire, all that good stuff. We just wanted everyone to buy into this idea of it's up to me. I'm sharing my profile because it makes my life easier. I don't want to have to sit through the orientation every time I switch job sites. And there might be, that one guy with the tinfoil hat on who doesn't have a cell phone, doesn't have an email address, barely has a social security card and wants to go through the orientation every time because they don't trust that technology. But I think you found, most of the participating employers have found 99% of the population or higher of the working tradespeople love the idea of having ownership over this profile. They don't have to bring their, packet full of certification cards and things to a job site. They can just say, here's my Siteform profile. It's got all my certifications in there. They're all up to date. Give me the job site specific. I want to get to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I can share as little or as much as I'd like to share with whomever I want to share it with. My employer, my union rep, anybody.
Yeah.
The GC, the safety professional on the project, anybody. And you can share just your OSHA 10 with Shawmut if they require that on a certain job, or your welding certification or your hoisting hydraulics license with Lee Kennedy on another job because they're asking for that.
Mm-hmm.
So the intent and Siteform, they agree with you. That was one of the big differentiators. The basis of their platform was around the tradesperson, the profile for the tradesperson. That man or woman has complete control over what's in their profile, who sees their profile, and any other personal information that's in there.
And I think, part of it obviously there's a compliance piece, which is you want to make sure that everybody coming onto the job has the certifications that you're looking for, has gone through an orientation, has some level of training. However, I think to really get down into a much more deep, kind of meaningful discussion about safety culture, it comes with tradespeople having ownership over that culture. And the fact that, they should want to know if their certifications are expiring, know if they're up to date on their trainings, and, really own that, profile of, how competent they are, how safe they can work. And, it shouldn't be something that you have to constantly check in on and monitor and, push compliance. It should be something that they desire and are really proud of and able to display.
Yeah. And they get to watch a very cool video one time a year as opposed to 5 or 10 or 12 and go from job to job to job. And another bonus with Siteform, or another differentiator, was that Siteform gave us the ability for any of the employers or the general contractors or even projects that are using this application to not lose their identity. Meaning we have this basic universal orientation that everybody can take. And then you've got the ability as a general contractor to create a Shawmut-specific or a Dimeo or a Suffolk-specific orientation that can apply to all of their projects across the country if you'd like it to. So you can have this custom piece to it, and then take it one step further to the project. The CMs and the GCs can create a project-specific orientation piece right in the app for that project, where you're going over the evacuation signal and the muster point and the fact that there's lead and asbestos in this location on the project, and here's the site logistics plan, and these are the 12 or 15 things that are specific to this client, to this project. And we've really taken the amount of time that it takes for somebody to go through an orientation from half hour, 2 hours in some cases with some of the CMs out there, and boiled it down to those 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes on a project or at a general contractor that is specific to that GC or that project.
Sure.
So, pretty efficient way to do things with Siteform.
Yeah, I mean, can we use the orientation to show, the shared safety practices across the greatest group possible, recognizing that, some employers are only wearing safety helmets now versus hard hats, and some employers are really, all in on, you got to wear gloves and glasses constantly. How do you talk about safety in a way that is universal, but still give companies the ability to say, we're really focused in on these 3 things. It's very important to us and our clients, or whatever it might be, and, attach that as a company-specific part of the orientation or a job site-specific part of the orientation. And so it's, you have this universal orientation. Nobody has to watch another 30, 45 hour-long orientation video just to take away those 2 things that this employer might do differently.
Right. It's customizable. So you're not losing your identity as a project or as a CM or a GC by joining into the universal orientation. You're getting the basic components out of the way. Which, if you fast forward on the timeline a little bit, we start this process in 2020, let's say, right? We start talking about this. We have COVID. It goes into 2021, and then you have the city of Boston created their Boston Safety Ordinance while this was underway, which the timing to me was perfect. The city, any construction work in the city ordinance requires that employees go through an orientation and conduct a pre-task plan on a daily huddle on construction projects. And this application melded seamlessly, almost perfectly, into that ordinance, and giving us the ability to deliver what's required in that ordinance in a very streamlined way, not using paper.
Yeah. I think the timing was, very
Fortuitous.
That's like, whoa. Where's
That
got
might
a
be
thesaurus out?
word.
Holy moly. It was fortuitous. I mean, I think that conversation within the city sort of influenced and sped up the process at which we were trying to work.
It did.
Because we were trying to get out in front of some of those conversations at the city of Boston. I wish, if we had started 6 months earlier, we might have been right in front of that conversation with a product in hand saying, this is what it is. This is the orientation right here. This is how you do it. So, it's all about timing. But in terms of the level of alignment that we had with kind of, I think, where the city ended up kind of shows that that's where the industry is going.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's really, I think, a testament to the consensus that was within the, room for the safety committee and the companies that were involved in planning the orientation and that effort. Because
So we're back to the ass kissing piece.
it never stops. I'm a membership driven organization. I have to kiss the ass.
It is a forward-thinking group. And it actually makes a very good segue into, one, recapping the idea of the universal orientation, right? Make it efficient. Make it all about the trades. Give some high-quality training with some knowledge checks, an application that you can transfer from job site to job site, GC to GC in the city and beyond. Right now we have it being rolled out with several of the CMs in the city, right? Lee Kennedy, WT Rich, Demio, Shawmut, give me some others. Quarterman's kicking ass with
Quarterman and Company.
Yep.
Got Erlen Delbrook.
Delbrook.
NEI.
Another one. So we have a lot of the CMs that are actively rolling it out.
JMA. Got JMA again. Derek, get on him.
Great company.
And you got to send him a vest. So make him start wearing your vest.
So actively rolling this out, and I can speak from Lee Kennedy's experience and anecdotally from just listening to the other CMs. We haven't had any resistance or pushback or any major, knock on wood, technical difficulties associated with rolling this out. Say, hey, scan this QR code, Mr. or Mrs. Carpenter or plumber or steel or ironworker, whoever. Scan the QR code, take the orientation. You can take it on your phone. You can use an iPad that we'll give you. You can do it however you want. Register, build your profile, and then you can go from job to job. We haven't seen really any of the pushback that I thought we would. Mm-hmm. It's been a very smooth damn process, which I'm psyched about because it's one of my fears, right? Something's going to happen out in the field and we're going to get a ton of pushback. The system's going to blow up. The app is going to get something.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened. And I'm psyched.
No, I mean, it seems the rollout is, it's deliberate. Like some folks are rolling it out at one or two sites as they, get a sense of how the system works, how the orientation works, the uptake, all that good stuff. But Lee Kennedy, some of the others are, let's do it. Every site, every tradesperson going through the orientation, just get it going. Yeah. Which is amazing.
Pull the pin out of the grenade.
Yeah. I think part of the acceptance of the orientation overall goes to the fact that, the safety orientation generally was viewed, I think, as something that was completely owned and managed by the general contractors. So it wasn't something that, the subs were necessarily, owning and having to be a part of on each project. It wasn't something that the unions were owning and managing as part of each project. So that gave us the opportunity to really shape this as, a way of creating consistency in that message that we're trying to send with safety as a group and, find greater efficiency in the process itself. And I think that's what the subcontractors, trade partners appreciate. That's what the tradespeople appreciate is, oh, great, I don't have to sit through another 45-minute, 2-hour, whatever
Making things a little bit easier for a change instead of making things more challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am absolutely with you. So if somebody's listening to this and they go, that's a fantastic idea, I can't believe I've never heard of it, where do they go to get more information on participating in this? Other than just showing up to a job site as a trade partner and saying, do you guys take part in this?
Yeah, so it's Jason Edic at Lee Kennedy.
J. Edic. J-E-D-I-C at leekennedy.com.
No, I mean, AGC Mass, I mean, we are the clearinghouse for all of the orientation materials and the overall process. So John Ferrante, Ferrante, at agcmass.org, or www.agcmass.org/care is where you can find a lot of this information. And, that sort of gives a little preview here, a little taste of...
This is the teaser. You're amazing.
The teaser.
What is CARE?
Exactly. Well, so I think beyond the orientation itself and the idea of having, sharing efficiency in the orientation process, the CARE program sort of came about as, I think, how does inconsistency in messaging on safety affect the overall understanding and adoption of safe work practices? Yeah. And if, I don't want to use any companies, if company A is using, one terminology to describe a safe practice and another company is using another, and they both have, it's the same principles, but it just doesn't align or doesn't, translate, how can we better create a sense of one message? It can describe a lot of what every company's talking about, but doesn't preclude each company from having their own focuses and priorities and things like that. Similar to the orientation, what is the common denominator, lowest level of,
consistent practice
and message that we can deliver. And that's CARE. So CARE is a framework that we've used to structure the orientation and are building out resources to fall within this framework. And CARE itself is an acronym which stands for consciousness, alignment, respect, and empowerment, which 4 basic ideas, but overall pillars of good construction, safety, culture, and practice. And
great teaser, by the way.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just doing my best here,
We haven't even looked at the notes.
Notes? I don't even bring notes. You got the notes here.
Notes, and you're hitting all the bullet points.
Yeah. So the CARE program, it gets to the same idea, which is it's all about the tradespeople.
Love it.
And so taking the safety culture out of an individual employer and saying, you boil it down, this is what it's about. And it's about consciousness, which is just being aware of safety issues, being, situationally aware, understanding how to recognize hazards. It's about alignment, which is owning your own certifications, knowing that you are trained to do the tasks that you're being asked to do, and that you can do it safely.
Alignment among the CMs and the GCs.
Even bigger, up to the next level. Yeah. And then it's about respect, showing respect for everybody on site, race, religion, creed, color, all of that good stuff. Showing respect for yourself by not abusing substances, not, or addressing any behavioral health concerns you might have for yourself or others. Being conscious of psychological safety, mental health, all of those topics, which I don't know if they are regularly housed within a safety program at a lot of companies. And so I think
moving that way.
it's definitely, and that's where we're trying to push the industry to say, the only way you're going to change culture when it comes to mental health, substance use disorders, or diversity and inclusion is by, making it part of safety
life
and everyday
life.
Yeah, they're all safety issues.
I think Turner says it best. It's just a simple term. This is our work home. This is our home at work. This is our work home.
Mm-hmm. Spend more time at work than you do at home, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
What a mentality shifter. When you think about creating an environment that is like the one that you have at home, the one that you want to have at home, when you hopefully have all those things, right? Mm-hmm. Consciousness, alignment, respect, and empowerment. So it makes a great teaser for 7 or 8 different podcasts that John just volunteered to do. We're talking about the CARE program and some of the stuff that's coming out of it over time. And I'd love to think that the orientation was the catalyst for creating that framework of CARE.
It was.
But it was also based on a bunch of GCs and CMs and trades coming together to say, all right, we can do better than this. We can do better than this on behalf of the trades.
Yeah. But saying we needed a common denominator for the orientation, a common message. What is it? What do we agree on? And how do you define it? And how do you verbalize, this is what hazard recognition is all about, is working consciously. How do you define those things? And, I think it's unique that to have an idea like the orientation, I think also lead to sort of incremental progress in how we talk, think, discuss, these safety concepts.
Yeah, the greater good. Another good segue. So, and another reason that we should have capes probably given to us. But this is catching on, not just in the Boston area. I mean, it's catching on with other CMs and GCs in the Boston area who have taken to the concept pretty easily. Quarterman is a good example. We partnered with them a little bit late in the process, and there was like a light bulb that said, yes, it's great for a company like us. We now have the resources, we can deliver a high quality something, and they're taking it on, and they're running with it. But even outside of the Boston area, this is starting to catch a little bit of, let's talk about 2 last things. Well, 3 if we include the question that I have out here, but 2 last things. One is, outside of the Boston region, where are you getting some feedback from? Where you having requests?
Yeah, I mean, I think the opportunity, like the scalability of the orientation program is tremendous. Using the technology platform, Siteform, gives us the ability to bring it anywhere. I mean, I think one of the things we've seen just within our local market, which is interesting to me, is you have large general contractors participating in this orientation despite already having your own video or your own database tracking certifications or whatever. And we have, companies that are mid-sized, smaller, also looking at the orientation and saying, this is filling a need for us. Like, this is filling a gap in what we had. So it's delivering value both at the high end and the, medium end.
That's a great point.
And it's union and open shop as well. Yeah. So you were seeing, that the need transcends kind of those traditional, I think, dividing lines sometimes in terms of who needs what. And, as an association guy, I'm always sort of thinking about who's benefiting. Is this a program for our larger members or our mid-sized members? And, how do you transcend some of those issues, which this orientation program has seemed to do? And then you think beyond just that, like our market area, Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts, New England. The opportunity for the orientation to go national is real.
Well, so much so that we haven't advertised this program. We may have posted some LinkedIn posts or some other posts on the orientation, and somehow just through that that minimal effort of, patting ourselves on the back, you're getting phone calls with some regularity from different parts of the country to say, hey, how can we do this?
Yeah.
Which to me is the ultimate, right? That's very organic. We don't have a marketing campaign to put this out there. It's happening very organically. And I think because it's a good idea, right? It's just a good and simple and feasible idea.
Yeah. And I think part of it goes to our network of the employers that are involved. Like, you got Shawmut, who's a national company, so I know that their ambitions for the program are larger than just the Boston market.
Yep.
And, then you have Asterisk Insurance and some of our sponsors of the orientation are also talking about it at a national level. They're talking about it in New York and California and the Southeast and all these different places. So, we've gotten calls from AGC Connecticut, AGC Georgia, and,
California.
They're sniffing around. I heard AGC California sniffing around, yeah. And, I don't know when you're going to air this podcast, but, we applied for and are finalists for the AGC Innovation Award at this year's convention. So I expect... Yes, you're presenting. No. I should just say, if you're going to air this podcast after the third week of March, then we won the AGC Innovation Award.
I like the
and now all of these states, I think, are going to be, all these chapters are going to be looking at us and saying, yeah, look at the companies that are involved and look at, again, it transcends the typical issues of union, open shop, and large and small, and all of these kinds of things.
Competitors, all of it.
So if you have a group of competitors or, that are looking to streamline their overall safety orientation process, I think we have the roadmap. And we're willing to share.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I think it goes back to sort of where we started. Again, a great segue here. Where we started the conversation, which is, the culture of collaboration from the AGC Safety Committee, AGC Massachusetts Safety Committee. I think that's an overall sort of just a culture of safety professionals generally and willingness to share those ideas and share those best practices. So we're not looking to franchise or license or any of those things, but...
you're looking to make the industry better. No bullshit. You're looking to make the industry better.
Yeah.
There's no more simple explanation than that. And I love it.
So open source
it's a noble cause. It really
everybody
is.
can have it. Yeah.
Think about you'll probably know this statistic better than I do. Think about 4 or 5%, probably 4% right now, of the U.S. population is employed in construction. That's a big number. So imagine eventually being able to have an impact, a real no bullshit impact on 4% of the U.S. population somehow, or even half of that, and to make a substantial difference. It's phenomenal. Finally having people come together over a common cause. Common cause of the tradespeople, the people who run this country.
Build this country.
The bread and butter.
Yeah.
The salt of the earth, the tradespeople. So, all right, we have one last question here. This is the personal side.
This is the hardest question after you sent it to me. I was like, I don't know if I can answer this one.
You have to be honest. You have to be honest, right?
Tinder.
Okay, so the question is, I always do this. Every one of the few podcasts so far that I've recorded, I've done a top 3. I've asked the guests, give me a top 3 something or other. It's been, outdoor activities or movies or songs. There's a podcast out there with Joe Kelly that I think he's going to air soon where he named his top 5 songs, and man, what a eclectic is the polite word for what he put out there for his top 5 songs. Weird's another word. But top 3. So every podcast I do, I'll do a top something or anything. So top 3. Give me your top 3 apps that are on your phone right now and why. There's 2 ways to look at this. You can go by screen time, right? If you track your screen time, you can go by screen time and see what you spend the most amount of time on, or you can just pick your favorite 3 apps. I've already got one out of the way. You said was Tinder.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's funny because Jason, you're a gentleman for providing the on the spot question ahead of time, so I could think a little bit about my response. Because unfortunately, when I thought about it, I was like, I'm a workaholic because my top 3 are like my Outlook. Like, so is it top 3 most used or is it top 3 favorite? So
that's why you can go either way.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I'm like I'll go first. I'm just going to bucket them, but I'm a news junkie. I read newspapers like too much, according to my wife. So I read 4 newspapers a day: New York Times, Boston Globe, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal.
And you read them all online?
Yeah, on my phone.
On the phone?
Yeah, typically.
So you have those 4.
Or I can pull them up on the computer. News apps, that's it. Newspapers. I'm like the last person that loves newspapers. If I could get them all delivered here and get through them that way, I would. But,
right, so news apps.
Yeah. The other ones are so bad. And then, so the other one is the Dunkin' Donuts app. If you're standing in line waiting to order a coffee, you're a sucker. You're a sucker.
That is an app I didn't expect.
Yep, that's the one. That's the one. Because every time it's just, in the morning, it's just such a feeling of accomplishment. You walk in, you grab your coffee, you walk out, and everyone else is standing there waiting to order.
You give everybody that passive-aggressive
nod. Exactly.
Enjoy the line.
Thank you.
Sucker. Until you get to the car and it's got sugar in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it. That's 2.
God. And then, I mean, no bullshit. My podcast app. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
Because I commute Hingham to Wellesley every day. It's an hour 20, mostly. Get one good podcast in, a couple phone calls, and you're there.
What podcast do you listen to right now?
Oh, I just got done, not just, but did you listen to the Big Dig to WGBH podcast?
No, I didn't even know it was a thing.
Oh, it's so good.
Is it really?
I mean, it's mostly about, like, it's not as much, I thought it was going to be more about building itself, but it's mostly about some of the key players and the politics and all that kind of stuff, but it was really good.
Is it a good historical look at the Big Dig?
Oh, yeah.
Came to fruition. Really?
Yeah, from like the 1950s to like completion.
Oh.
And like how it impacts like people thinking about large construction projects today.
I was 99% certain that no matter what podcast you said, I was going to go, wow, that's great. I'll never listen to that.
Oh, it's the AGC Constructor Cast. Yeah, that's my favorite one.
I actually think I'm going to listen to that.
Oh, you
I think
should.
I'm going to add that to my podcast.
Oh, that's an awesome one. It's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 episodes, and they're like an hour a piece. So
I can handle that.
There you go. And take up a good chunk of your time.
I'm driving over an hour each way, too.
Yeah.
As I thought about my list of my top 3 apps, I went with the favorites, not screen time, because I went on to screen time yesterday, and apparently I'm not tracking screen time. You have to turn that on as a setting to realize, to know where you spent your time over the past.
I don't even know how to find that. I have to like go into my phone and figure that out.
You search it, screen time, and it'll come up in the settings. So I went with my favorites, and now that I'm looking at this list, and you went somewhat the intelligent route, and I'm kind of gray now. Let's start a read list. So I had number 1 as Facebook, and not for the reason that you think. I realized a couple of years ago that Facebook is just a photo book for me. It's got memories since my oldest kid was 5 years old whenever I joined Facebook, and she's 24 now. So the last 19 years or 18 years or whatever, we have a family photo book and a journal or diary of everything that we've ever done, and
that's awesome.
And it's all the good stuff. You don't put other than maybe a family loss or a tragedy or just some expression or communication of it. It's all very positive stuff for the most part, if you use it that way, if you use it the right way. So I still like Facebook, even though it's an old man app.
I almost said Google Photos, the same thing.
Yeah.
Like pictures of the kids.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you can search by their facial recognition.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can look through the pictures of my kids when they're babies on up to now and remind myself that I'm not as angry at them or.
Yeah. It's also great for creating those birthday collages when you can just search in your
Here you
phone and your photos are in Google Photos. Just give me every picture of my kid that I've ever taken.
And no joke, if you're looking for a gift for somebody, the Google Photos will create a photo album for you of some event or whatever you've been doing.
That's great.
There you go. And it just does it for you.
Yeah.
Just got to edit it a little bit and you're good.
So easy. Books is my second favorite, so just the Apple books.
What'd you read most recently?
I'll tell you. No. Outlive. Boring. It's Outlive by Peter Attia.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. I'm down this total rabbit hole of, creating a better health from me.
Good for you.
But it is an absolute rabbit hole. But one of the best books I have read on that is Outlive by Peter Attia. In fact, I've read it twice now, back to back, just because there's so much information in it. But I spend a lot of time on the books, mostly trying to fall asleep at night.
Oh God, I got to read more books. You're good. You're embarrassing me now. I read my newspapers and.
That's good. You're reading.
Yeah, I guess.
And the last one I have is Be Real. It's an app.
Yeah, you're making me look old because I'm like, that's the one where you like have to take a picture or something, or you. Yeah.
It tells you when. The idea is you be real, right? It tells you, hey, you have 2 minutes, take a picture of whatever the hell you're doing right now and post it. And you have a group of friends, and it's mostly family. But, the kids are away at college or one's living up in Fort Smith, and, you get a picture of what they're doing that day. Most of the time, it's something stupid, like sitting behind a desk or walking to class. But occasionally you get something pretty good. You do have to be selective, depending on what you're doing at that exact moment. But be real. It's just a way to connect with the kids, mostly. And make fun of other people, which is my favorite pastime.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Those are my 3 favorite apps. So, that's it. Podcast number whatever is pretty much in the books. Listen, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. We've been here for 2 hours now.
An hour and, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Almost 2.
2 hours now. So I can't thank you for taking the time to do this, because I think what people hear on the podcast hopefully is interesting to them. Hopefully they get some benefit out of it over time, and hopefully they get some background on what we're trying to do at the AGC Mass and in the Boston area. So Thank you, John, very much.
Thanks, Jason.
Nice job.
Appreciate
you having
me on. It's freezing in here.
It is cold. It's cold.
If you're looking for sponsors, I think you got to dig a little deeper.
We need HVAC sponsors on here.
There you go.
Come in and adjust the balancing in this office.
Let's call Brian Potter, T.G. Gallagher on this podcast.
Come on, Brian. Thank you very much, man.
Good. Thank you.
Nice.